I was looking at my spiders.
Are you pondering the spiders?
Yeah, they're looking good.
The spiders. It's man. I don't get to see. I mean, the only spiders that I see are these ones that annoyingly are called. I learned that they're called house spiders. I feel like I'm having deja vu. Like we've talked about this on the thing before, because I'm just like, why are the spiders inside the house? How do they survive? What do they eat? There's no like bugs in here,
There's a
except
whole
for them.
ecosystem. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
they
like
eat you. They eat people.
I was gonna say, like they just be eating like old food and dead skin cells and shit. Like it's
I mean,
awful.
presumably there are plenty of bugs in our house, but I guess I don't know. They must not eat very much. Who
It's
knows?
weird. It's weird. And I looked it up because I'm thinking that they're lost, and it's like no, they're house spiders. I'm like, what the kind of weird nature is this? It don't make no damn sense. I'm working
Yeah.
on a OG metal Samwise Gamgee right now.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
What for? Is it a commission?
No, it's gonna be a gift for somebody
Oh,
who
a
really
gift.
likes Samwise Gamgee.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Who
and I'm
doesn't
like,
like Samwise?
if you don't, that's a good litmus test.
Hmm.
And if they're like Samwise Gamgee's lame, you're like, oh, red flag.
They're like, who would ever stand by a friend like that?
Yo, for real, like that's how you know. You'd be like, oh, you know what? My mother's calling. I'm gonna go take this call.
Yeah, I have to return some VHS tapes.
Ah, yeah, yeah. Oh, my brakes just went out on my vehicle.
Uh-huh.
I need to go change that actually. Now that we've said that, I got a mystery package from Game Envy today.
From where?
Game Envy
Oh,
kit
yeah.
from Game Envy Creations. He's a hobby holder, does the palette and stuff. He
Hmm.
sent me. He just be sending me stuff. I think it's presumably it's kind of like a secret thing, but I'm just like, what is this? It's new things to test, new things to go in the palette. I'm like, oh, all right, hype.
That's cool.
Now I'm getting excited to splash up now because of it.
Yeah, I haven't painted in a little bit, but I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully,
Yeah.
I can get my daughter to paint more on her ghost spider, and I can.
Oh yeah.
I have a gambit and rogue that aren't finished, but those are my last Marvel characters that I haven't painted yet.
I wonder if you and her went to go see the new Spider-Man, if she'd get jazzed
I
up
get
to paint.
amped.
Yeah, paint some Spider Gwen,
Yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll
because
just
that
take her
movie,
from the bus stop.
especially from some like colors perspective and like who but movies of a visual feast,
That's fun.
is really cool.
Shall we start a Relic Buds?
I think we could. It's been a long
Yeah.
time since we've relic budded, you know,
All right.
since we've budded our relics together.
Ain't that the truth? Okay, so let's see. Welcome to episode 13, I think,
13,
of
14, or
Relic
15.
Buds.
Hello, everybody.
Uh, this week we have a very special episode because it's an episode at all.
Precisely.
Hooray! Yes,
Yes.
it's always a special
Yes.
treat to hang out with your friend Sean and Malev. And so let's see some Relicblade updates. I'm gonna get us started with this weekend. I went to a little Seeker Saturday event at a game store,
Herrick
uh,
Games.
Herrick Games and Hobbies in Boulder Creek, California, and that was a lot of fun. It was like a really casual. We just sort of threw it together. You know, Sky Herrick, who owns the store,
Shout out.
posted in his Discord that we were gonna hang out. Um, it's like a 2.5 hour drive
Mm,
from my place, but it
okay.
ended up taking like over three.
Really? How,
So I
just
was kind of
because.
late, and when I rolled in, um, there were like quite a few people there. There were like a dozen seekers getting down
Oh
on
my
Relic Blade. It was
gosh.
really cool. Yeah, so we set up some boards and terrain and threw down some games. I answered rules questions, and I got to play a pretty cool game. I sent my lone guard against some apostles of the deep, and it was a really tight game, really close, very exciting. And I ended up winning, but we weren't quite able to do the last round because my opponent had to leave but it was very cool. It was a lot of fun to play, and we played on the lava castle,
Oh
which
yeah,
is
I saw
the
you bust that out.
terrain I built like originally, like ages ago
Yeah,
to
the
promo
OG.
Relic Blade. Yeah.
The OG
So that
is.
was a
I
lot of
don't
fun
even
because
think
I hadn't
I've
played
played
on
on
that
that
board in a
one.
long time. You
Yeah,
haven't?
I don't think so. I really
Well,
don't. Because I feel like I'd remember that. Because I'd be
yeah.
like, oh snap, I'm playing on Lava Castle.
I'll probably
I
because
feel
I'll
like I've
be
moved like I've moved figures around on it.
uh,
This guy. Oh, this is jump. Oh man, that's dangerous.
yeah. One thing that's fun is adding a little bit of like extra terrain to it because you can the castle and rocks are like glued down,
Yeah.
but you can put crates in different places and bridges in different places and
Hmm.
like sort of set it up variety of
Yeah,
ways.
yeah.
But
That's a great one.
yeah, when I come over for the FanX in Salt Lake in September, I'll bring it,
Yes.
uh, and I'll have like the sound of terrain rattling on my drive over to Utah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was very cool. I wasn't sure how many people were going to be there, and I had a pretty busy week, so I didn't like coordinate very much stuff. But it kind of makes me wish I had run more of a tight event. Like, oh, here, we'll play these scenarios and
I mean, it's
see what's up.
always
But
like that,
it was
right?
cool to just hang out and like game a bit.
Yeah, I mean,
You
and
know.
that's I think what Relic Blade is shines in that because it can become, you could put together little packets and things and all
Yeah.
these little conditions and stuff, or it's just like, hey, do you want to battle me? I battled that guy just then, so I want to try
And there's
this
also,
board.
I mean, there's already a lot of stuff. Like I played a scenario from the Volglands book, and in it had optional rules for spawning a large monster. So I used the Gorgon from the Catacombs
Mm-hmm.
book, Gorgon monster,
He's
and
large.
yeah, so it was really cool, like having a big goo eyeball Gorgon attack us while we were at the lava castle deep underground. Very exciting stuff. We also went for the game I played. We used the rules that are going to be in the appendix for the new print run of the Seeker's Handbook. So
Mm.
that brings me to my next Relic Blade
This
update.
the new
I can
Seeker's
timestamp it
Handbook.
is the Seeker's Handbook new print run. And so I finally got that file all finished and had Niall look over the editing and make sure that I didn't make any mistakes on the like 2 pages we added.
Mm-hmm.
But I did add
Shout out to now.
an appendix that has the rules for teams, which previously were just in the like inserts from the faction sets that had teams. So it could be like if you bought Lone Guard Watchmen, I can imagine someone out there like not having access to the rules for teams,
Yeah,
seeing teams on the card and just being like, "This is nonsense."
answered a lot of
Uh,
the question in the Discord.
so, so that now finally will be in the book, and then the other thing I wrote is rules for pickup games, and it's funny because like when you and I play, we just have been doing this,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't written down,
Yeah.
and it's really helpful because I don't think necessarily other people would have thought that this is the way you should play. But yeah, we set up and you know both players had access to use all of the Fate Weave actions once per game.
Yeah, the
And so
Seeker
that
action
changed the
cards.
dynamic quite a bit. And then the other thing was treasures, because in that scenario, it's designed for campaign play, right? But we were just playing a pickup game. And so all of the treasures that you pick up, that particular scenario had 4 treasures on the board.
What's
And
the name of it again? Did you say?
it was the Doomed Expedition from
Oh, I've
Volcans.
actually never played that one. I have seen my
Yeah.
buddies play that one, and yeah, I remember a large monster spawning now. Like, because we were having a similar event, 2 tables, and we were all playing, and they asked me in the middle of my game, "Do you have a large monster?" And I was like, "For what?" I was like, "What's going on over there?"
Yeah. Yeah. So, and now with the Gorgon, you've got like a real large monster. Um, that's the biggest figure I make. So, Yeah, so that's cool. So what we do with the pickup rules that are going to be in the next printing of the Seeker's Handbook is we made a deck of upgrade cards and just made like a treasure deck. And when we would pick up a treasure, we
I'll
draw a
just draw
card
from there.
and immediately be able to equip it. And there's
Any like did you I haven't I don't remember the rules off the top and the change. Is it any cards that or is it just
yeah,
like
so there are two ways. There's uh the basic upgrades, like the basic treasures of the magic ring, raven brooch, and health potion. And those three,
oh because those correspond to the tokens.
yeah, and
Gotcha.
those make up like just a baseline. Here are the rules for those. No cards necessary. Just use the tokens or you use these. That's very basic, right? And then the other is to make a deck. And so with that, I was able to put lower value 1 point upgrades like magic ring and healing herb in there. But I also put like a magic weapon, and I put the gauntlets of strength and a couple other upgrade items that ended up being making it so that we didn't know what they would be. There was a dozen possible treasures.
Dang. That's fun.
And so it ended up being really cool because my opponent drew, when he grabbed one of the treasures, he got the gauntlets of strength, which gives you the slam ability.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was able to
Jump
use
on
that
it.
to slam my ranger, or I guess my lone guard infiltrator, off of the castle and down into the lava below.
Oh boy.
Because we didn't have any like spells or abilities that really forced guys off of stuff. So the lava wasn't super dangerous. But then he ended up picking up the gauntlets of strength and picking up my guy and throwing him. So that was very cool.
That is
Um,
cool.
yeah, so the Seeker's Handbook, what basically I'm down to like my last case of hardcover books. So I've got like 30 left. And early July, I'll have a new palette of a new print run of the Seeker's Handbook arrive, and those are going to be soft cover with the appendix added. So for the most part, nothing has changed, right? Except there's an appendix with the rules for teams, the rules for pickup games, and I
Nothing
think
changed, only added.
the painting guide from the Storms of Corral box, because I just thought it'd be kind of fun to have that in there.
Throw it.
It could stand to be more detailed, but I think it's sort of fun to see, right?
It's a nice
a little example of painting.
Yeah, it is good.
And it's kind of a nod back to those old Games Workshop books where they're like, oh, just,
Yeah, next draw the owl.
yeah, paint your skeleton white. Look, it's easy. But yeah, so that'll be arrived. And so I think what I'll do is, yeah, so between now and July, if you order, you'll be getting the hardcover book. But once I get those soft cover books, I'm going to take my remainder hardcover books and set them aside as something that someone could special order, because I'll be down to my last 10 or 12, and I'll be sending out the soft cover books from then.
Nice.
And that'll be good because like they'll be a little bit lighter weight, a little more gamer friendly in that way, and then I can put them in the bundles and stuff at that major discount, and it won't be quite as hard of a hit for me. Although actually that's sort of nonsense because these cost more to print than the hardcover books, but not as much to print as reprinting hardcover books. So I guess there's that. Oh man.
One thing
But
that
anyway, so that's one more update is new Seeker's Handbook's coming. It's going to be a cool perfect bound edition. Mostly the same. You won't have to buy one if you already own a hardcover book. But new players are going to be able to keep getting into Relicblade, and I was able to spend that, get those printed without running a Kickstarter, which is nice, even though it's a major investment.
it is nice though. Just keep the styles rolling.
Yeah.
And you
And
you
then
mentioned new players, and
yeah,
yeah, the next tangent of the all of the stuff that you've been doing to your website.
yeah, yeah. So the other big update since the last Relic Buds is um is a major website update for relicblade.com. And so if you're listening and you haven't looked at my website in a while, you can check it out. It's still run through Squarespace, and this podcast is not sponsored
No.
by Squarespace. So I'm happy to say Squarespace is kind of a headache. And once you are locked in with them, it's expensive and weird, and you just have to put up with whatever crappiness you're stuck with.
Oh boy, I would love to. I
And
would love
so
to not learn.
the big crappiness I had to deal with is like I just wanted people to be able to I wanted to be able to organize my web store. I just wanted people to be able to click on Relic Blade and then click on box sets or whatever. But to do that, to just sort things by category, um, which honestly sounds like the most basic functionality of a
Mm-hmm.
web store, right?
Mm-hmm.
To be able, or even to search within my web store. I have this like awful little search bar that you can't see. I had to like make a white box behind it because you can't see it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I
That's
couldn't
how it
put it on
happened.
a different part of the website because they don't let me access that part of the website. Um, but like now you can search for
Yeah,
things. Like if you're like, I want Wilderkin, you can type in Wilderkin and it should come up.
that's massive.
But in order to get that like tiny quality of life upgrade, I had to completely rebuild my website
Mm-hmm.
from scratch. I had to completely like all of, and like that sounds weird or dumb,
I mean,
but like I had to rebuild my homepage. I had to rebuild the Relic Blade page, rebuild the Sledge page, and yeah, a lot of it's copy and paste. But I had to like re-download my images and then re-upload all the images. But the thing that gets crazy is the 160 items in my web store that all had to be manually built again with product descriptions, product images,
oh
all the
yeah, it's a
digital down,
lot of individual
uploading the files for the
pages.
digital stuff. Uh, you have to put in like a small description and then do additional information, a longer description, all of the disclaimers like this includes a 25 millimeter base and it's cast in metal and it's lead free and it's not for children. And then you do that again for like 160 items. Took forever. It was crazy. But I got through it and now my website is 5% easier to use. It's still awkward.
Yay!
It's still like it's still so
I found it
weird.
7% easier to use.
Oh, thank you. seven
Yeah, it was
percent
pretty good.
easier. It's like
I said, "Wow,
there's still stuff about it that like this is not
I'm about to go
a
to it right
website from
now."
2023.
What
Like this
what
is its
is a web?
own
Yo,
ecosystem. It's its own ecosystem where people it's not intuitive. It's not the way you shop online. It but
all right, everybody,
I don't
head
know.
to relicblade.com,
Yeah. And then learn
peruse
how to
through that thing, and let us know if you got
at
lost
least
in the
it's not
weeds, if you got just stuck somewhere, and you just like, yo, I know I added stuff to my cart. It was a wilder.
where's
It
the
was a
cart.
Wilden kid. It was a man. It was a
And then
magician man.
that's the thing. So all right, so I made everything 7% easier to use. Now instead of an infinite scroll, you can type in things or click on categories to sort through the website.
Saw
And
that.
it's a
Saw
little
that.
awkward still, but it is way more navigable. Um, Here's the major downside though. All up for the last 10 years that I've had a store through Squarespace,
Mm-hmm.
um, people have made user accounts.
Yeah, yeah.
And the user accounts generally don't matter. Like autofilling your address is not that big of a convenience, like quality of life update. But what it did do is if you bought PDFs from me or digital downloads, you could log in and like re-access them.
Refine them again.
Yeah. Which is really important. And all of those accounts are deleted.
Gone.
So if you are listening to this and you have PDFs and you're trying to re-access them because you didn't save them on your computer, all you have to do is email me and I'll get them to you. But yeah, part of it is like for me to take my website from 2010 to 2012 in quality, I had to delete everyone's using.
You just had to go, it's too much baggage.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like,
fresh start.
I can't just be stuck. I mean, I've seen tons of my peers in the industry. We're all working hard trying to make stuff. It's easy to go to a website and see something that was literally built in the 90s or early 2000s, and like, rebuilding a website's a huge undertaking. And so I finally was able to do it. And I think it's good. And the Relicblade section that for like learning to play
that got
is
a huge
way
impact.
nicer now. I think on my website, until I did this update, it was literally like stuff from before the first publication of Relicblade. Like,
and like when I first joined you too, like back in 2015, the late end of 2015, I think.
So it's all still, it's way better now that all that stuff is up to date.
Yeah, because you've been another little skill that you've been busting your artistic chops on, which you've been putting to good use in this. And I'm gonna put I'm gonna grab some footage and show y'all what the page looks like. But Sean's been animating GIFs.
Doing little
just a little
drawings.
GIF. Wait, is it the guy who made them says it's GIF, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't.
Yeah, he don't know what he's talking about.
You can call them animations.
You can use them if on any of your posts by just typing Relicblade in the search.
Oh yeah, it's true. It's up on
Giphy.
Up on Giphy. So if you are posting a story on Instagram or reacting to someone's post, you should be able to find it.
Yeah,
it's
sort
of weird
them on
because
Twitter.
It's like, it pops up sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. I think that there's some kind of back end authentication thing going on between different platforms and Giphy, where the approval process I think is manual. I think they have to have people make sure that it's not like wrong stuff or evil images coming into
evil imagery
people's feeds. But yeah, you can search for Relicblade and their little animations and stuff.
Okay.
You finished assembling, Sam?
Yeah, he had a lot.
Is he holding a sword?
He is. He's got a sword.
Oh my gosh.
This is like an incredible sculpt. This set is from gotta be the early 2000s.
99.
Yeah, it doesn't say
it might be 01. I think,
which is curious. It says NLP Inc. And I'm like, what is NLP Inc?
New Line Pictures.
Oh, okay, yeah. Interesting. Did they put that on all of the tabs? Because it doesn't say GW on the tabs. It just says NLP. Yeah, that's so funny. That is mad interesting. But yeah, the sculpt is just crazy. If you don't like metal, it's all right, but find it in your heart to like metal miniatures.
Yeah, it's true. I mean,
because they're amazing, and then also Relicblade's metal miniatures. So come on now.
Buying stuff in metal or plastic or resin, they're all compromises, except for the highest end plastics are obviously wonderful. And so if you just are going to be building Space Marines, then you're good to go. Just never special order a resin figure from Games Workshop. And then you'll learn that you can be the best at plastic and the worst at resin at the same time in the whole world.
But anyways,
Like, so the website update went off, the book update went off. I'm all caught up on that stuff. I've got some other projects that I'm working on, but those are the big Relicblade updates.
Yeah,
Now, my guy,
so
speaking
many.
of speaking of projects, your big
Speaking of
first
projects,
release is underway.
yeah, it's well underway. I think actually, I would not be surprised if later this week from recording, maybe just yesterday, because I'm planning to post this on Friday, that I would have had the proof delivered to me, the final proof of the rule book that we just went to go. Well, we just hit print on last week, and that's the last thing. That's the last
Wait,
thing.
you already are printing it. So what is the proof for?
Well,
Just so
he's
you
just
can look at
sending
it
me
personally?
he's sending me, yeah, he's just sending me
Okay.
the proof to
Just so you
have.
can enjoy the finished product.
Yeah, pretty much just to see it, because yeah, there's still a lot of other stuff to get going as well. But yeah, demonship, y'all. I think we talked about it a little bit when we got back from Adepticon. I don't know if the pre-order was live. Didn't do my research there. But
Yeah, here, tell me then from the beginning. We'll imagine this is a new section of the podcast. So
mhm.
imagine there's like some that cool demonship music
Oh
plays,
yeah, we could. Yeah, I'm gonna have to put that in actually.
and then like big splash demonship and then the sound of a demon exploding and the survivor
I
running
like
past
that.
with
People
his shotgun.
screaming.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah, you can
then
imagine they did an animation. Ah, he's running.
and a
Right, demonship. All right, so
Tarzan scream for no reason.
imagine now that you're pitching to the Relicbuds. They've never heard anything about it, but
Relicbuds, what's going
Relic
on?
Bud number one, Malev, is his first miniatures game because
First
you've
minis
had
game.
tons of creative projects that you've published, but your first miniatures game is called
Demonship.
Demonship, and it's
Demonship.
a dating game.
It's a dating game. It's about shipping, which is a popular thing these days. People really like to use their imaginations and put characters in interesting situations. And I was thinking similarly, but mostly there's demons and you have like a big shotgun. And so you blast them all over the ship is kind of the it's kind of the thing. But yes, demonship. It was something. It's funny to think about because as recently I saw my man Ash GMG. He was playing the Catacombs of Kural on his channel, and during his little review read through, he was saying that he could see a little bit of the DNA in demonship inside like the room design kind of element of the Catacombs of Kural. And yeah, to his credit, there's definitely a similar thought about creating this game. And oh, actually just today, I don't know if you saw it, Sean, I'll try and put it up on the screen, that someone else was flying from Chicago to I think somewhere in Australia, and they had their demon ship set on plane,
On the airplane.
on
I
the
think I saw that.
airplane.
It was like
Is yes,
in a
it's
story on Instagram or
yeah,
something.
yes, it's yeah. That's kind of one of these things. Is like, we play. We've talked about playing games a lot on here and like ease of access and all sorts of stuff. Right now we're in the eve, or I don't know what would be the term. Just previous Saturday, the pre-order for Games Workshop 10th edition Leviathan box set went live, and you can't look one direction without seeing a new Tyranid design or new Space Marine guys. And that's kind of like all the blaze and the huge effort in like theme in the marketing with this one has been making the game easier, for people to get into, making the rules more accessible, kind of like bringing all these things in and trying to, and making the product line, work in all these interesting ways. And that's kind of been what is the thing that's tough about playing tabletop games, we just don't always have the bandwidth to like really set them up, really get them going. Because I remember running a new friend through some games of Relic Blade, and at the end of the second game, I remember just like having a moment because I was feeling a little tired, but I got the gameplay endurance. This
Hmm.
it just is like the tiredness is meaningless. But I could tell that she was she was kind of like this. There was not like there was just the far away look was coming in her eyes sometimes, and she was kind of like. And I was like, "Oh, are you tired? You good? You good to go?" She was kind of like, "Yeah. Why am I tired? And I was like, "Well, it's because when we play these tabletop games, we're the computer. We got to do all this stuff. Not only do we got to move them and move our bodies and look around and set up the table and roll dice and stuff. And it all sounds like nothing, but I mean, compared to just sitting and holding a controller and moving
Hmm.
for the most like your thumbs and like index fingers,
Yeah.
it's a
Well,
big
like
discrepancy.
I'm sure I've mentioned this even on Relicbuds before, but like I heard this crazy statistic about how like high level chess players burn as many calories as any other high level athlete. So
Really,
like
I don't
yeah,
think
so
you. I
like
don't
if
think
you
you
had
have mentioned that
if you had
actually.
like a boxer or a guy running a marathon, like chess players just blast through calories and
That is interesting
yeah,
because I mean,
and it's all brain.
yeah, yeah. Because I mean, I
But
could
like your
I could
brain,
see
a
it.
lot of why we have a metabolism is so we can have a brain, not not just so we could be ants and walk around sort of solar powered and be happy as can be. But we've got these big old brains and bodies.
Yes, and they got all
Uh,
these things to think and crunch and process. Yeah, that's too much. Because now I get it, because it takes a lot. And I mean, I in our Discord, I saw a discussion where they were asking what kind of tabletop games do you prefer, and the prevailing answer was people prefer skirmish games because of it's smaller footprint, smaller time frame,
mhm.
smaller
You can get more
forces.
creative with your paint jobs and your terrain. There's a lot of reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, there's these all these things that sort of point to the same kind of issue and problem that we have is that it's just kind of hard to get down and play some of these big games. These the term like lifestyle game is really true, and I think for the people that play 40K at like a high level, really interested in going to tournaments and stuff like that, and big into list building, making sure they play painted and all that sort of stuff. Um, that's exactly the sort of thing that GW wants. Someone who's really dedicated, someone who's really looking at it like the main thing that they're doing. And these days, I'm finding my attention so split between gazillion different interests and different stuff like that. And like you mentioned, designing lots of stuff for Relic Blade. I'm actually later today. I've got to finish my design for Midnight City, which I'm a guest writer for Black Sight's little game jam game, Midnight City, which is a gangster game, and have I know nothing about gangsters, so naturally my scenario is going to be based off of something that happens in Predator 2.
Yeah.
Just go just and so there's lots
Well,
of
it really has a lot less to do with gangsters and more to do with movies,
yes,
anyways.
yeah, that's why I'm just like I'm going with it. There are gangsters in that movie, and a predator does slay them up pretty good, so I think it'd make a great scenario. So there's been a lot of design stuff and I've been toying around. We've talked about, oh my gosh, we've talked about so many games that I've messed around with and played, games that you've been crafting in the shadows, so many projects. But Demonship was sort of born of a happy accident, wanting to deliver an experience that had all of the things we've kind of been talking about in mind, which is just like ease of access, um, just accessibility, all these sorts of things.
Part of it too, like the actual object of it,
Yeah,
because it's small. Like you haven't mentioned this yet, so hopefully I'm not spoiling
oh
it
yeah,
too
no.
bad. But like, it's a 6 inch by 6 inch board.
Hmm.
And like ages ago, you were demoing Relicblade on a little 1x1 board I had
Yeah,
for demos.
yeah.
And someone was like, "Is this just on a 1x1?"
There's
And you're like,
so
"Well,
many
the demo
people.
is, but like it's on a 2x2." And I would have thought people would be like, "Oh, 2x2 is big," but like, yeah, now 6 inches by 6 inches. It's a grid based
Yeah,
movement
I'll throw up some
system,
pictures here.
and and part of what's really exciting about it is the way the terrain and the board modularity works. So
Moves
you've got
around.
like walls and terminals and crates and barrels and demons and survivor running around on this ship. And when you enter a new room, the configuration changes, but like the physicality of it being like a very small thing set up in front of you, um like it's a tabletop game,
Which it is,
which
because
normally
goes
like
on a
it
table.
feels like game companies want to brag that it could fit on a normal table instead of a wargaming table. They're like, you
Yeah,
don't need a 4 foot by six
uh-huh.
foot
What do they call the term kitchen
gaming
table? A
kitchen, but
kitchen
you can play
table.
on a normal kitchen table. And then they're
Hmm.
like, wow, now you can play on a countertop because we changed the dimensions. And um, this is full on being played on a fold down table on an airplane.
Yes, exactly.
Like tray table size, like holy moly, it's like a cell phone game version of a tabletop game, like in your pocket.
And that, you know what you said pocket, and one of the big inspirations was kind of Mighty Max.
My Polly Pocket for
Mighty Max
boys.
Polly Pocket. Yeah. Hold on. Are you here? Are you hearing my cat? I need to go. Hold on.
I heard one meow.
Let me go rescue him real quick. Ooh, I just dropped my knife, but thank goodness I dropped it into the cutting mat, and that's what it's for. So
Instead
that,
of right into your body.
yeah, which I'm still lucky enough to have not dropped an exacto into my body yet. So I'm thankful for that. But yeah, before I ran off to go get Apollo, we were talking about Demonship, and it's what makes it kind of one of the things that I was aiming for originally when I was designing it. Which, yeah, to be honest, that your comments about doing the original Relic Blade demos with the little 1x1 demo table thing that you had were perfect, because that is truly when it's that seed in my head about a game that was, what kind of thing could you play on a 1x1, and like what would it really
Mhm.
look like. And there was all sorts of things that were making me think about other classic games like Battleship and stuff, because the way that you'd put the two Battleship
Oh
like
yeah,
sides together,
absolutely. Yeah.
and it was kind of just small. And I was always thinking about something like similar. We could sit super close to each other, we can have this thing on the table, and that's the whole thing. It doesn't really have all this other stuff, even though naturally, because it's a tabletop game, always going to have all these other stuff like dice and miniatures, and if you want handy reference aids and things like that. But yeah, the original concept, I was building, I hand built this, um the prototype, if you will, the proof of concept, and that I made out of pink foam and some
Yeah.
MDF bits from a Death Ray Designs takeout kit, and created that little play space that you were mentioning, the sort of 6x6 tile. And the only reason that it came down from 1 foot to 6x6 was just because I was thinking just more like the spirit of the game's development was so like just proof of concept. Like I had no
Mhm.
intention to make it into a full game that was playable at all. I was like, I
Yeah.
want to
You were
show a
like
friend.
literally playing toys.
Pretty much, I was like, I want to show a friend this thing, this idea that's a game, how it could be. And I was like, just kind of jam it together. And so it just shrunk down to 6 just for the sake of it being even, even smaller and more concise and kind of easier potentially to um, play with and move around and stuff like that. It was less cumbersome. And after at that whole concept of, it's a small play space. I'm thinking about movies like Alien, thinking about Ripley and versus the alien, and kind of like what the whole theme of that movie is, which is the crew getting like slowly wiped out, and mostly the final act of trying to escape, and the way that Ripley ends up setting off the ship's self-destruct to blow up the Nostromo, and then she gets on a thing, she tries to get out. That little moment was kind of like the catalyst for the game design, where I was thinking, all right, what is this particular theme that I want to kind of encapsulate, and what does that experience involve, and then just on some like Powerpuff Girls element mixing, I was like, all right, that's that element, but now I want Doom, specifically Doom 2016, with big cool emphasis on cool music. The Doom guy literally gets health from like crushing a demon's skull and then kneeing the skull and then throwing the skull at somebody. He just gets health back for doing that. So there's like themes about that game, the badassery, the element that in that one, I'm not sure if this was part of earlier lore, but in that one I remember noticing that the demons have lore for him, and they call him the Doomslayer. And so like throughout the game, you're reading books, you're reading tablets, and then they're talking about you, the character, and you're the demon to them. And so it's kind of a similar themes. I wanted to mix those elements and create something that was kind of those two themes. Doom 2016 in vibe, Alien, the last act of Alien in sort of like a setting, a place, and then
because it's a much more survival horror game than Doom.
Yeah. It's more,
Yeah.
and it's, the last ingredient is like level design and kind of a little bit of, just a little bit of, I guess, the feel as well. Because in Doom 2016, I want to emphasize that the character is cool, but in Doom 3, which was a big departure kind of from the series, it's a lot more claustrophobic, a lot more slow, really nice like shadows and stuff. There was literally like creatures popping out the walls and stuff, and almost like a Halloween house, like that's exactly kind of how that game was. Like things were just popping out at you and you'd shoot them and stuff. And so those three kind of components are what made me think about that style of game. And then designing that little room, because going back to what I mentioned about Ash, the Catacombs of Corral uses just like those building block elements from the Black Site. That was what I had at the time, so I was using that. And then you just reconfigure those elements to make all of the options. And so in Demonship, it was the same thing. You need a 6x6 tile. You need 2 walls that are 1x3. You need a pillar that's 1x1. And then I think you need a 1 wall that's 2x1. It's been a minute since I've looked. I think those are the dimensions. But you just with these little like basic building blocks. There's also other little things like a console. This thing is called a platform, but these basic stuff you just use to recreate all of the different room layouts. And what you're doing in Demonship is you wake up on the ship as an unnamed survivor, but you've got cool skills, and namely like a cool weapon of your choice. The game is technically miniature agnostic, though with Black Site we've developed quite a bit of really cool things for the game, including the set of miniatures which comes with the rulebook. but you could the rules are written in a way that it doesn't really matter what miniature you have. I've been playtesting with every miniature, just miniatures that are over here. They're over here. They're going in. The guy from the Don't Look Back high school guy with his baseball bat, he's going in. You know, the Relicblade unfinished thief, she's going in, because it's just like it doesn't really matter. The ranged attacks could be whatever. It's all abstracted in a certain way, and that
I played Demonship with the Thief from
I
Relicblade
remember that. Yeah, and you were
and the
also
Ogsul, the eyeballs
the
as the
Ogsul,
demons. Yeah.
and that's another aspect of it too, which is the game kind of is, it's really about creativity, kind of going back to what we were originally talking about, or what I was mentioning with like 40K and this kind of like barriers to entry. One thing, and even talking about Spider-Man and
Yeah.
Marvel Crisis Protocol, one thing that I think is, I don't know how, you know, I'm not a scientist or nothing, but I do have opinions, and I definitely think that when you are collecting and painting something that's from a well-known IP, it's different than having to make your own creative kind of choices. I think it accesses like a little bit of a different part of your brain. And so
It does, and both are fun.
yeah, both are fun and both are fine,
Yeah.
right? But with Demonship, especially how I've personally felt the shift in games workshops more, especially if we like use the example of the Space Marine, which is kind of the only example really in this regard, because I used to love creating my own Space Marine chapter, and you can still do that. I'm sure plenty of people do, right? But back in the day, the way that that it guided you through it felt a little bit different. Now it feels just a little bit easier if you just, do you want to be an Ultramarines player? Do you want to be Raven Guard? Are you favoring the Iron Hands style? Do you like the Imperial Fist style? You know, and then you can go in that direction and maybe create sub chapters and stuff like that, which is all still a very cool way to do things. But I've been beginning to feel with the creation of the, I guess, the reintroduction of like Primarchs, and give the redesign of a lot of characters, giving them more of a character feel, more of a recognizable, you know, name to face kind of thing. It's kind of been feeling like, instead of I used to kind of feel that 40K was a little bit more about this kind of just sort of blank space of the grim vastness of war is everything. But now it kind of has a bit more of a guided, narratively character driven feel, which, like I said, is fine, but it tends to make me want to think less about characters and not use them, and think more about my own guys, and, you know, go back in that direction that I remember kind of growing up with.
So a
And
big part of it for you is wanting to make a game that you do create your own
yeah,
character,
you
and
can kind of.
not only that, but like even the types of demons and stuff is
Mm-hmm.
open to
And
interpretation,
the
right?
if you want to build your own demonship, yeah, exactly the same, because it's just dimensions, you know. It's even the theme itself can kind of be reskinned, and so that was a big part about it, as I got more away from, because I mentioned that I had no intention of really making it into a game. And now with where everything's at, man, I don't even recall when it made the switch from just being some kind of like fun passion project to like, oh, I'm doing this now. I think maybe it was Blackside Ben who just hit me up and just said, so Demonship seems kind of cool or something.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
What, because
You know.
early on, one of the steps, because you made your prototype, but
Hmm.
was it Doug who did the first
It
laser
was,
stuff, or
yep.
was it?
It was
Yeah.
Doug
So
who kind
I
of
mean,
took
you
that.
gotta throw a lot of love to Doug's creativity, because his
Yeah, because
prototypes in wood just were like just kind of sprang out of your brain and
That's what was so
just like
funny about
became
it,
so real so fast.
because I
And I
wanted
think
to
that's
make it
part of
as a
the
proof
problem
of
is like
concept.
is that the the product design of that like 6x6 board with those like little cool uh the console with the lever and like all
Uh-huh,
of that
uh-huh.
little those little details, it just sprang out fully formed. And like I love when that happens with a game, when you can
Yeah,
just
it
like it just is it, like it makes so much sense that it should
during
exist.
during
And so
Adepticon,
yeah,
that was honestly what people were so gravitated to, because
yeah,
when I created my little prototype, the whole thing was to eventually show Blacksite and be like, yo, I think if you guys made this and this, it would be really cool. And
mhm,
yeah, like you said, before I
yeah,
know it, Doug was like, "Oh, that'd be really cool to make," and
yeah,
we didn't even chat. I think maybe halfway through he wanted to check dimensions on something, but I know that he already like just sent me a picture of just the raw, unpainted
yeah,
thing, like, and I was just blown away. I was like, "Holy smokes, that's it is exactly possible." And I remember thinking, of
yeah,
course it's possible because of the precision of the lasers and the everything
yeah,
being square, and it's gonna be real nice and neat, you know. That was really exciting. And what I learned when I was telling everybody about the idea at Adepticon, because to provide context, we sort of launched the alpha version of the game at Adepticon, and I had before Adepticon was kind of soft challenging people to create their own survivor and then like come to a booth and play through a demo with their survivor. And bless them, I think big shout outs to y'all. I want to say at least 10 to 12 people did that, coming through with their own, because carrying your miniature through that hall for an undetermined amount of time until you just might see me, it doesn't seem hard, but it's not an easy thing to do, just to carry around a miniature, when you got a whole bunch of other stuff going on. So we debuted it there, and that was also, we had the alpha rulebook. It was printed, it looks nice. And
yeah,
while giving people the demos, we was giving them out, and I was learning pretty much my first draft of the rules, that kind of game jammy style of rules that I was talking about, that I didn't really know if because it was like, yeah, that should work, and
yeah.
for the
But
most part,
it was really like a quick rundown, like a sketch of a game.
yeah, it
But
was like
it
the
looked so
blocks.
polished because
Uh-huh.
that your sketch of an idea got sketched again in cool like product through
Mm-hmm.
the terrain,
Exactly.
and then like sketched into like a cool layout of like, because I think the like prickly magic of the idea like really implanted in the minds of, so like, Doug being able to quickly whip up that terrain and then paint it those bright colors so it just like looks so cool. And then Ben being able to like latch on
Come
to the
through and
format
yeah,
of,
and
oh well, in
just
this case the rule book has to be this size then.
yeah, because
And I
we're
think
going
that
to make it
like
so it fit too.
constraint of making it that little square so it fits on in the board, suddenly the book is laid out and looks like a finished product. So to give people an idea of like how to explore the game at that point, you could have been there with like printer paper and
Uh-huh.
with like a
Uh-huh.
unformatted document and be like, oh, it says here, we can check this out.
Yeah, yeah,
But it
yeah.
looks so polished. And so,
And
yeah,
that
the
was a
game
big
has
part of
really
it.
developed a lot since then, right?
That was a
So,
big part of it, because I remember thinking that, because Blacksite does the backsite, the Blacksite does
backroom.
the backroom, yeah, the backroom project, which is kind
Mhm.
of similar to a Kickstarter. It functions like that, but it's all on their website. And with Demon Ship, we kind of just snuck in, and we're doing this brand new thing that was just really experimental. But I remember thinking that I really did want to, because in my head, despite the rules being where they were, in this whole process of like writing this book, especially with it being like open playtest, open feedback,
Yeah, yeah.
kind of learning from
Yeah, because you're
open
getting
editors.
feedback on stuff like like
like
where to put a
everything.
comma, even,
Oh
like,
yeah,
yeah, everything.
everything. You know,
I,
so it was
I
a
try
real
to
crash
like
course.
polish things down before I hate to send something to playtesters that
Well,
doesn't
so
look finished.
I actually did get comments on the fact that it looked very good because my OCD doesn't allow me to have certain things, but my grammar is just bad. Like I just don't have good grammar. So like,
Well, I mean,
certain sentences are just like
you don't like have a degree in
unnecessary.
English,
Yes,
so
well, but
like you're just
I did graduate. I should know certain things, but it's like now here graduate when you graduate at like 17, 18. All this time later, now I'm trying to figure out when the semicolon's supposed to be. It's like I don't know.
yeah,
There's
the answer is probably never.
yeah, especially in a game rule book. But there was so much learning kind of involved in that. It was in kind of, but at the same time of all that learning, what was important for me is that I knew what I wanted the game to be. Like I knew how much like I wanted the game to kind of go. I knew how complex I wanted it to be. And I knew like its entire like scope. And that was mostly
Mhm.
what we had. And it was just about fine tuning interactions. I'm
Yeah.
terrible at math, so if someone looks at the skill list and goes, wow, why would I do this if I could just do that 2 times and get 3 times the result? And I'm the good point. I'm gonna change that. You know, there's
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
because there's things like that when it comes to it. But
I mean, they do that in video games. They still are patching Elden Ring with like to try and make this skill do not heal quite as fast or to do
oh
more
man,
damage
I
or
can't
like,
even
so
imagine with a game
so
like that.
it's
Yeah,
not like even AAA world class stuff, like they make adjustments,
yeah, it's
and they're
it.
working with way more refined numbers. Like if we get to choose on a D6, like
Yeah,
and which can be really good and also really bad.
it could
Like
be really nice and straightforward, right? But yeah,
uh,
it's that was a big thing, and like learning kind of with people, do the play test, and kind of take notes on things that were happening, and big things like the game was just way too deadly initially, like very deadly, which was like I said, that's what I wanted, but I didn't understand what I put into the print equals super deadly. It was like, oh wow, you
right.
super dead. I was like, too many people were dying in square one, and I was like, dang. That
Yeah,
happened to
so
even me.
demons did burst through, but maybe we need to make you be
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
little
yeah,
more heroic,
yeah. That's a
more
little
like
bit.
Ripley and less like the first guy who sticks his head over the egg.
Yeah, because that's what people were doing. They were being the first guy who stick his head over the egg. And man,
What's this? A demon?
yep, get straight blasted up. And speaking about that too, there was learning lots of things in the design process too, because I mean, laid out a book, never written a full book. And I mean, that's another thing that I found interesting because I was getting comments on the layout of the book and that you might have to flip back and forth during gameplay, and which is, fair. And I think
Mhm.
it's pretty hard to not flip through a book when books have
Yeah.
pages, you got to flip through them. So
And there's certain things like even in a summary, there's certain things that just like I ran into this recently. I tried to have like a quick reference at the back of the new Seeker's Handbook print run,
mhm.
and it's like you're gonna if you don't know what a dodge token does, you're gonna have to go back and read the page or
Yeah.
like paragraph because I can't fit that whole paragraph here.
Mhm.
And so like I could do easy stuff like poison next time you activate your -1 action.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
easy. But like so at least they can look up that kind of stuff without having to flip through the book. But at a certain point,
Yeah. And I
if you
mean,
don't know the rules, you'll have to flip through.
I've heard many different kind of like schools of thought on how. I mean, we were talking about a rule book you got recently for a game that's about ships and things, and you were
Yeah,
talking that rule
yeah,
book
it's right here.
after you were describing it seemed like, huh? you know. And I'm proud of the way that the rule book is laid out. I do enjoy it. I do think that yes, it does kind of suck that the skills are like right there in the middle and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
to my point,
yeah, it's
the
right here.
game is
Hey,
super simple.
this rulebook for Dystopian Wars, page 1 has 3 paragraphs about aerial units.
Oh yes,
This is before you. This
this
is
is
before you know what type
what
of
an
dice the
area.
game uses.
Yeah, just
Like
start
what
talking
you,
about.
it's like they're like, this is how you target an aerial unit before you even know like that. You
You know,
barely know that
you
it's
don't even know
called
how to say the
Dystopian
word of
Wars.
the game yet. Dystopian,
Yeah.
like this. It's so it's learning how to lay out a book, write that whole thing. I mean, I think another thing I found interesting too is the consistency stuff. Like, you know, you're mentioning every time you mention evade, most of them have a capital E, but this one doesn't. You know, like, do you want it
Mm,
to be lowercase or capital? I'm like, oh, shit, do I want?
yeah.
I don't know, you know. And
Yeah.
then you
Niall
start,
always has to get on me about that kind of stuff.
yeah. And I mean, it's amazing to see because like I, it's I would tell if you turned to me and said, Malev, is it ready? Is it finished? Is it good? I'd be like, there's no errors. And then and then someone sees it, and I'm like, oh my god, that's insane. So it really, if you're open to it, it can really open your eyes to like your blind spots. Because
Yeah.
like I was super grateful to see just how like differently people could look at the rules, ask questions, interpret things, because yeah, there was a particular rule in which I never put in the text counting spaces, right? And this is another thing that's kind of interesting where it's like we play a lot of games and I know how to count squares on like a square grid, you know,
Hmm.
but I use the term within. And so it's like, okay.
Oh yeah,
So
that's a
now
sticky term.
now I have to determine what is within for when you're
Hmm.
counting the spaces, and then
Is it a
so
guy touching the fourth square or a guy on the fourth square? Is it adjacent to 4 or is it?
oh, see
And that
now
like
it really.
grids are complicated and like and
Mhm.
within and versus completely within and like
And so I have that
it,
you can count diagonally, and I heard that people don't like this word orthogonally because I heard that it
diagonal
was
or
made up
clear.
or
Oh yeah.
made up for board games, so like it's not even a real word. And I thought that was weird. And I was
Uh,
and I was like, fair. I've never heard about it until board games, but I used it in my game now because I thought it was fun, you know. But there was a part where because the game has the walls and the walls occupy spaces, I was saying that like enemies they can spawn within 4 spaces, and when you're and I said including wall spaces, and so suddenly it's just like
mhm.
how the enemy gonna spawn in the wall though, and I was like, no, I was saying that you can count the wall spaces when you count, but the enemy was not gonna. Okay, let me change this. So
Yeah.
like,
It's
so
so
it's
funny.
like you gotta go back and you make all these changes to the rules, and there was a ton, and I mean a ton, just but to make the game. I feel like the game is in a really, really nice spot. Getting. I've been getting feedback from people, but mostly it's been really good. I've been enjoying that, and so at this point where we're at, like I will put up some information to link to the Black Site page because we've got the digital version of the set, which comes with the PDF and really cool um, 3D printable demon ship set, which was designed by Ben, and it looks great. I would love to have my mitts on one. I've seen a lot of people paint up theirs, and there's been a ton of people that are in the demon ship community that have used the digital rules to just create their own demon ship stuff. There's
Mhm.
someone who, off the top of my head, and I'll try and put some pictures to show y'all. Lego ship. Someone
Yeah,
make an
that was
entire
cool.
ship out of Legos. There's people making dungeon stuff. There's people just making their own kind of like 3D printed design ones, and there's tons of creativity involved. And I've been super stoked to see because like that's exactly kind of like what I wanted from the game. I wanted it to be like a game that would excite a hobbyist, They could think about, oh, you only need 5 miniatures for the game in total. So, you're
Yeah.
just like, what demons do I want to use?
It's
What sort
also
of
a
things?
really cool project. Like it's the uh, counterculture to lifestyle gaming, where
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You smash
you
it
can
out.
get into a game and paint models that you wouldn't normally paint, and build a little kit that will fit nicely on a shelf, like a book nook of a
Yeah,
game, right?
exactly.
Like you can full on your bookshelf have just like this little corner of a demon ship, and it doesn't have to be, your lifelong next, 3 months of painting
Well, for
project.
sure. I
It's
mean,
just like really cool weekend project.
if you think about any games that you love, right? Like any games that you'd consider just like close to your heart. Like for me, that'd be like Tenchu, those,
Oh
and I
yeah.
have revisited them in the past, but I've been playing Ghost of Tsushima like crazy because it's a modern game. And, with as much as Tenchu's still my favorite game, I played it a bunch, and it's like, that's sort of one thing, is that I think maybe there's this concept that because we're collecting like kind of physical miniatures or something, that there's, I don't know, maybe people, it's because I think almost, I'm thinking about board game collections where like it seems pretty commonplace in the board game collector, really enthusiast sphere to like have way more games than you have any sense of
Mhm.
owning, myself
Well,
self
another
included.
barrier I think I run into for wanting to collect a new miniature game is realizing that I need two armies.
Yeah,
And I
if you
think, I
wanna
mean,
like
some
play with
people
that.
maybe don't want to get into it unless they can get a friend into it at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
But like for me, I just assume I'm going to be building and painting two armies so that I can
I kind
introduce
of
someone to it, right?
Yeah, I kind of in the same
Um,
boat.
and I think demonship is contained in that it's
Yeah, it's just
it's
meant to do
one
one thing.
hero, five demons, right? Or four?
Yeah,
Four.
four demons. Yep.
And also a cool compact terrain kit that you can buy or print or build. Um, anyway, so it's a really cool project that I think really fits into uh,
Counterculture is a good way
so,
to say it, and I haven't thought
yeah,
about
but
that.
also, I mean, a mainlining competitive 40K player would be able to, you know, get a break from highlighting their like 300th Space Marine
Hmm.
and do a cool side project. And
Yeah,
so I think it's going to be a really cool
and convert your demons. You
game
got plenty of
project
plastic about.
that, yeah,
Get
yeah.
to
I think
converting.
it's a cool, it's been wonderful to see it come together so fast. The idea really latching onto people's
Uh,
brains. You get being able to like follow through on the editing process, which is, universally known as the hardest part of writing.
Yeah,
You know,
it's a grind.
yeah. So yeah, I'm really proud of you, and that did the
Thank you, man.
background or the back room thing funded really well,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's
we
going to be
didn't do a back
delivering.
room for that.
Oh,
We just
right. It
did
was just a
a
pre-order.
pre-order, which yeah, we
Yeah.
did because right before was right at the beginning of Adepticon, or actually Adepticon Day was the launch of the Don't Look back room.
Right.
So
Yeah.
backside, we were just over here juggling all sorts of crazy projects,
Yeah.
and yeah, now hopefully we should be shipping Demon Ship to everybody who pre-ordered. Thank y'all. There was, to
Yep.
my
Yeah. I'm
memory,
looking forward to getting mine.
943 people, I believe.
Wait, 943?
Pre-orders. Yeah, I think that
Dang,
was.
dude, that's really good.
I think that was. That's what lists on the tracker. Yeah,
That's more than I get on my Kickstarters for
and
Relicblade.
and thank goodness, yeah, because then that would be even more work for Sean to do. That'd be, you know, we'd be still delivering the last Kickstarter right now. You know.
No, I mean my last Kickstarter was close to 900.
Yes, yeah. Actually, now that
Yeah,
I'm
that's
thinking
a
about it, yeah, it was just
is
about, it
eight
was
eight
double,
hundred
yeah, because
something, I think.
it was
Yeah,
400 before and it doubled to 800. That's why that last Kickstarter was
yeah.
crazy. Yes, no, and
That was cool.
it was really exciting, and it's one thing I think I failed to mention, but was trying to, that when people came to play it at Adepticon, that was the thing that really stuck out, is the little 6x6 box, the concept.
Yeah.
Not, not the game's cool, but it was the concept that really was making people excited. This idea of
Mhm.
transportable solitaire style, and I've heard people that are treating the game kind of like sort of like a chess that you play against yourself. And this guy was talking about he leaves it on his coffee table, and each day of the week he was just like playing a turn and coming back, and then since he could just leave it there like that, it
Yeah.
just goes, comes back, starts a new thing, rolls it, does, you know, plays another turn, and then sees that how it goes. And then some people are sprinting it, saying that, and I'm
Mhm.
surprised to learn that it does take about an hour and a half to play through, because people are, we talking about the chess calories. Yeah, so
Mhm.
it can
Yeah.
get the points in that game where you're like, and big shouts
Yeah.
to
Get
Miniac
those.
and 52 Miniatures too, because they had a great live stream where they played Demon Ship live, and I was in the airport um, on just on mobile Twitch, just trying to answer questions as best as I could, and watching them play through the game, and that was
Yeah, that's sick.
pretty interesting and super surreal stuff. It's been cool to see people supporting the project, and lots of fun memes have come from the project. We'll talk about, hopefully we could talk about Ghost Boat one day, because I think that while people are clowning with Ghost Boat, I don't think they know that Ghost Boat might actually be really cool. You know, some Ghost Boat action. Yes, y'all. So I will have put up lots of information for y'all to check out Demon Ship.
Yeah.
If you join the Black Site Discord, you can see that. You know, we've got a couple of people in the Relicblade the Discord community chatting about it as well. But yeah, y'all. Let's Sean, thanks for talking. It is,
Yeah. That it was a fun, supersized Relic Buds getting back into the swing of things episode.
yeah,
Lots of updates.
we
We've been
got,
working hard, so that we haven't been
honestly,
recording Buds
Adepticon,
episodes. We're going so hard.
since Adepticon, I really almost feel like a different person. That I'm like just getting the disassociation. That's been, it's
Yeah.
because I've been only doing stuff that I've never really kind of been doing before. Yeah, it just feels sort of like I'm looking forward to getting back into the swing of wanting to um I need to play some games. Yeah, I'm like, when was the last time I rolled some dice? I need
I
to play
know.
some Relic Blade. I've got all these Oxul right here, prepped up, ready to go. Yeah, I gotta play some Catacombs of Corral.
Yeah, that's a good way to get Relic Plate on the table
That I think so. I think
for
so.
sure.
I think so. I have some ideas about it too. But all right, my man. Much love, and much love to all y'all for listening. I appreciate it. Been been a minute since we've gotten rambling in this position.
Yeah.
But we'll be back. We'll be back soon for some more Relic Buds. Much love
Right
and
on.
peace, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
Peace.